Admiral Jack Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant and watched the enemy ships through the main screen. 200 alien vessels floated in perfect formation around the outer edge of the solar system like deadly metal flowers waiting to kill anyone who tried to leave. The Nexus Coalition had been keeping Earth trapped for 3 long years, and Jack could see no end to their siege. The communication panel buzzed with another message from the alien commander. Supreme Navigator Kethver spoke in his cold mechanical voice that always made Jack's skin crawl. The translation came through clearly as the alien delivered the same demand he had made countless times before. Humans of Earth, you have 72 hours to surrender your independence and submit to Coalition authority, Kethver announced. Your resistance serves no purpose except to bring suffering to your people. Jack turned off the communication without responding. He had heard this threat many times, and his answer never changed. Earth would not bow to these creatures who demanded humanity give up everything that made them free. Captain Lisa Morgan entered the bridge carrying a datapad filled with reconnaissance reports. Her face showed the exhaustion that all of them felt after years of constant vigilance and preparation. The blockade had cut Earth off from all their colonies and trading partners, leaving the planet struggling to support itself. Admiral, the latest scout reports are in, Lisa said as she handed him the pad. The Coalition is moving more ships into attack positions near Mars orbit. Jack read through the data with growing concern. The alien fleet was preparing for something bigger than their usual patrol rotations. Intelligence suggested they were getting ready to launch their final assault against Earth. The Coalition called it the Pacification Protocol, and Jack knew what that meant. They would bomb Earth cities from space until humanity begged for mercy. How are our colonies holding up? Jack asked. Mars base is running low on medical supplies, and the Europa mining station reports equipment failures they can't repair without parts from Earth, Lisa replied. Titan colony is doing better, but they're rationing food? Jack walked to the observation window and stared out at the stars that had once promised freedom and adventure for humanity. Now those same stars were blocked by enemy ships that wanted to chain Earth to their will. The Coalition controlled trade routes throughout the galaxy and forced every species they encountered to follow their rules or face destruction. 3 years ago, when the aliens first arrived, they had seemed friendly enough. They spoke of joining their great alliance and sharing technology that would advance human civilization by centuries. But the price was too high. Earth would have to give up their right to govern themselves and accept Coalition oversight of all human activities. President William Hayes had refused their offer. Humanity had fought too hard for freedom to simply hand it over to aliens who demanded obedience without question. The Coalition response was swift and brutal. They surrounded Earth with warships and declared that no human vessel would be allowed to leave the solar system until Earth accepted their terms. Down in the lower levels of the Defiant, Dr. Amanda Price worked with her team on humanity's only hope. Project Breakthrough was a desperate attempt to build weapons and technology that could match the Coalition's superior forces. For 3 years, the best scientists and engineers from Earth had studied captured alien technology and pushed human innovation to its limits. The project combined several revolutionary advances that might give Earth's fleet a fighting chance. New fusion drives could push human ships faster than anything the Coalition had seen. Quantum shield technology promised better protection than standard armor. Most importantly, the navigation systems used quantum entanglement to coordinate fleet movements in ways that would confuse enemy computers. Jack's personal communicator chimed with an urgent message from President Hayes. The leader of the free world appeared on the small screen looking older than his years. The stress of leading humanity through its darkest hour had taken its toll on the man. Admiral Carter, I've just finished addressing the world, Hayes said. I told them that humanity will never surrender to alien tyranny. Our people deserve to know we'll fight to the end rather than become slaves. Mr. President, the fleet is ready to do whatever is necessary, Jack replied. Our crews know what's at stake, Hayes nodded gravely. The Coalition ultimatum expires in 3 days. If we're going to make our move, it has to be soon. How confident are you in Project Breakthrough? Jack thought about the untested technology and the brave men and women who would risk their lives using it. Sir, we're outnumbered 10-1, but we have something the Coalition doesn't understand. We're fighting for our homes and our freedom. That makes us dangerous. After the call ended, Jack returned to studying the tactical displays that showed enemy positions throughout the system. The Coalition fleet was massive and well-armed, but they had grown comfortable in their superiority. They expected Earth to either surrender or die quietly like so many other worlds had done, but humanity was different. They had survived ice ages and world wars and countless disasters that should have destroyed them. Now they faced their greatest test, and Jack was determined that Earth would not go quietly into slavery. The next 72 hours would decide whether humanity remained free or became just another conquered species in the Coalition's empire. Dr. Amanda Price walked through the research facility deep beneath Earth's surface, where humanity's brightest minds worked around the clock on Project Breakthrough. The underground complex buzzed with activity as engineers tested weapon systems, and scientists ran final calculations on technologies that had never been tried in real combat. Amanda had spent her entire career studying alien technology ever since the first Coalition ships appeared in Earth's skies. What she discovered had surprised her. The aliens were not as advanced as they wanted everyone to believe. Their technology was old and had not changed much in hundreds of years. Admiral Carter is here to see the demonstration. Her assistant called out from across the laboratory. Amanda nodded and began setting up the presentation that would show Earth's military leaders why humanity might actually win this impossible fight. She had studied every piece of alien wreckage from the small skirmishes over the past 3 years and found weaknesses that could be exploited. Admiral Carter entered the lab accompanied by several other fleet commanders. His face showed the strain of commanding Earth's defense, but his eyes remained determined. Amanda had worked with him before and knew he would listen to her findings even if they seemed too good to be true. Doctor, I need to know if Project Breakthrough can give us a real chance against the Coalition, Carter said without wasting time on pleasantries. Amanda activated the holographic display that showed detailed scans of Coalition ships, the alien vessels appeared powerful with their sleek hulls and energy weapons, but Amanda had learned to see past the impressive exterior to the limitations underneath. Admiral, the Coalition has superior numbers and firepower, but they have 3 major weaknesses, Amanda began. First, their tactics have not changed in centuries. They fight the same way against every enemy because it has always worked before. She changed the display to show battle recordings from Coalition wars against other species. Every engagement followed the same pattern, with ships moving in rigid formations and following predictable attack sequences. Second, their technology is designed for fighting other Coalition-style fleets. When their shields drop below 70%, they retreat and regroup. They have never faced an enemy that keeps fighting even when badly damaged. Captain Ben Rodriguez stepped forward to add his perspective as one of Earth's top fighter pilots. He had studied every recorded Coalition battle and trained his squadrons to exploit their weaknesses. Our pilots have been practicing new tactics based on atmospheric combat from Earth's history, Rodriguez explained. We use unpredictable flight patterns and aggressive maneuvers that would seem impossible to alien pilots who have always fought in the vacuum of space. Amanda nodded and continued with her analysis. The third weakness is the most important. Coalition ships are built to standard specifications that have not been updated in generations. Every vessel in their fleet has the same shield frequency and the same computer systems. She activated a new display showing the quantum resonance pulse that Project Breakthrough had developed. The technology used captured alien components combined with human understanding of quantum mechanics to create a weapon that could disrupt Coalition shields across an entire battle zone. Commander Kate Sullivan had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up with additional intelligence from her security teams. We have also been analyzing Coalition communications and command structure. Their crews follow orders without question and rarely take individual initiative. This was crucial information because human military doctrine emphasized independent Thinking and adaptation during combat. Earth ship captains were trained to make quick decisions when communications were cut and to improvise solutions to unexpected problems. How do our ships compare to theirs in direct combat? Admiral Carter asked. Amanda brought up technical specifications for both fleets. Coalition ships have better weapons and stronger shields, but they are designed for long-range engagement between organized fleets. Human ships are built tougher and can take more damage before becoming ineffective. This reflected humanity's history of warfare, where battles were often won by the side that could endure punishment and keep fighting. Coalition battles typically ended when one side retreated to avoid casualties, but human crews would fight until their ships were completely destroyed. Captain Danny Walker had been studying the enemy formations and spoke up with his tactical assessment. The aliens position their command ships in the center of their fleet where they think it is safest. If we could penetrate their formation and target their coordination systems, the rest of their ships would not know how to respond, Amanda smiled at this observation because it matched her own conclusions about coalition command structure. Their ships are controlled by a central computer network that coordinates all fleet movements. Disrupt that network and you turn an organized fleet into individual ships that do not know what to do. The demonstration continued for another hour as the team explained how Project Breakthrough would give Earth's small fleet the tools to fight against overwhelming odds. New fusion drives would make human ships faster and more maneuverable. Improved weapons could penetrate alien defenses. Most importantly, quantum communication systems would let Earth's fleet coordinate attacks in real time. Admiral Carter studied all the data before making his decision. Dr. Price, your team has done incredible work, but we are still facing 400 enemy ships with less than 50 of our own. Even with these advantages, victory is not guaranteed. Amanda knew the odds were terrible, but she also knew something the Coalition did not understand about humanity. Admiral, we have one more advantage that cannot be measured or calculated. We are fighting for our homes and our children and our freedom. The Coalition crews are just following orders from commanders who see this as another conquest. The meeting ended with Admiral Carter authorizing the final phase of Project Breakthrough. In 48 hours, Earth's fleet would launch Operation Prometheus and attempt to break the blockade that had imprisoned humanity for 3 long years. As the military leaders left the facility, Amanda remained behind to oversee the last preparations. She thought about her own children sleeping safely in their beds above ground and knew that everything depended on the weapons and technology her team had created. The Coalition expected Earth to surrender or be crushed by superior force. They had never faced an enemy that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Tomorrow they would learn what made humanity different from every other species they had conquered. The alarm klaxons echoed through the UES Defiant as Admiral Jack Carter gave the order that would either save humanity or destroy them completely. Operation Prometheus had begun and there was no turning back now. Earth's small fleet of 43 ships accelerated toward the massive Coalition blockade that had trapped them for 3 terrible years. Captain Danny Walker led the first wave of attack fighters in a desperate mission that everyone knew was probably suicide. His squadron of 12 stealth fighters had to penetrate the enemy formation and disable the sensors on the Coalition command ships. Without those sensors, the aliens would be fighting blind when the main attack began. All fighters, remember your training, Walker spoke into his communications system as alien ships grew larger on his screen. We hit fast, hit hard, and make every shot count for humanity. The Coalition fleet detected the approaching fighters, but their response was exactly what human intelligence had predicted. They maintained their perfect formation and prepared to swat down what they saw as a desperate and foolish gesture. Supreme Navigator Kethver watched from his command ship and felt only contempt for the primitive humans, who thought 12 small fighters could challenge his mighty fleet, but Walker's fighters were not following any tactical doctrine the aliens recognized. Instead of attacking in formation, they scattered like leaves in a storm and approached the enemy ships from unexpected angles. The human pilots used their atmospheric flight training to perform maneuvers that should have been impossible in space. Combat. Walker's fighters screamed past a coalition cruiser and fired quantum torpedoes directly into their sensor array. The explosion sent metal fragments spinning through space as the alien ship lost its ability to coordinate with the rest of the fleet. Across the battlefield, other human pilots scored similar hits against command and control systems. The main Earth fleet arrived just as Walker's fighters completed their mission. Admiral Carter watched the tactical display and saw that the first phase of Operation Prometheus had worked perfectly. The coalition fleet still had overwhelming firepower, but they could no longer coordinate their attacks effectively. All ships attack pattern Delta, Carter commanded. Break formation and engage individual targets. What happened next shocked every alien commander in the coalition fleet. Instead of maintaining military formation like civilized spacefaring species, the human ships scattered and began attacking like wild animals. Each captain chose his own target and pursued it with single-minded determination that bordered on insanity. Captain Julie Barnes commanded the destroyer UES Thunder and found herself facing a coalition battleship 3 times her size. Standard military doctrine would have required her to retreat and find a more suitable target. Instead, she ordered maximum power to weapons and charged directly at the enemy vessel. The alien ship fired everything it had at the approaching human destroyer, but Barnes kept coming through the storm of energy blasts. Her shields failed and her hull began to burn, but still she maintained course toward her target. At the last moment, she fired all her remaining torpedoes into the battleship's engine core and rammed her dying ship into the explosion. Both vessels vanished in a brilliant flash that lit up the entire battlefield. The coalition crews who witnessed the destruction could not believe what they had seen. No rational species would sacrifice their lives in such a manner when retreat was still possible, but Barnes was not the only human captain willing to die for Earth's freedom. Across the battle zone, damaged human ships turned into guided missiles aimed at alien targets. The coalition had superior technology, but they had never faced enemies who treated their own lives as ammunition to be expended in pursuit of victory supreme. Navigator Kethfer tried to restore order to his fleet, but his commanders were paralyzed by the chaos of human attack patterns. Coalition battle doctrine assumed that all enemies would follow logical tactical principles. When the humans ignored those principles completely, the alien computers could not calculate appropriate responses. Commander Rick Stone had predicted this exact situation when he helped plan Operation Prometheus. The human fleet was outnumbered and outgunned, but they could create enough confusion to even the odds. Every human ship that died took at least one coalition vessel with it, and sometimes more. Dr. Amanda Price watched the battle from her position aboard the Defiant and prepared to activate the secret weapon that Project Breakthrough had developed. The quantum resonance pulse was untested in real combat, but the mathematical models suggested it would work exactly as designed. "Admiral, I am ready to deploy the resonance pulse," she reported to Carter. "Do it now, Doctor," Carter replied without hesitation. Price activated the quantum field generator hidden deep within the Defiant's hull. The pulse spread outward at the speed of light and passed through every coalition ship in the battle zone. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen, and Price feared that the weapon had failed. Then coalition shields began flickering and failing as the quantum pulse disrupted their harmonic frequencies. Ships that had seemed invulnerable suddenly found themselves naked to human weapons. The tide of battle shifted as Earth's forces pressed their advantage against enemies who could no longer hide behind their superior defensive technology. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Green saw her opportunity and led her fighter wing through a gap that had opened in the enemy formation. Her target was the Coalition's mobile command base, a massive station that coordinated fleet movements across the entire blockade. Green's fighters faced desperate resistance as Coalition escorts tried to stop them from reaching the command station. Human pilots died one by one as they fought their way through walls of enemy fire. Green herself took a direct hit that disabled her life support systems, but she kept flying toward her target. With her final breath, Green fired her remaining missiles into the command station's control center and watched it explode in a chain reaction that spread throughout the entire structure. The destruction of their coordination hub left the Coalition fleet unable to respond effectively to the continued human assault. The breakthrough had begun and nothing could stop it now. Earth's fleet had punched a hole through the blockade and proved that humanity would never surrender to alien tyranny. The cost had been terrible, but freedom always demanded sacrifice from those brave enough to fight for it. The destruction of the Coalition's command station sent shockwaves through the alien fleet that went far beyond the physical explosion. Without their central coordination system, individual ship commanders found themselves making decisions they had never been trained to handle. For centuries, the Nexus Coalition had operated on rigid hierarchy where orders flowed from the top down and questioning authority was forbidden. Captain Steve Murphy led a boarding party from the UES Ranger onto a damaged Coalition supply vessel that was trying to escape the battle zone. His Marines fought their way through corridors designed for alien anatomy while the enemy crew abandoned their posts in panic. What Murphy found in the ship's data banks would change everything humanity thought they knew about their enemies. The intelligence files revealed that the Nexus Coalition was not the unified alliance they pretended to be. Internal communications showed deep cracks between member species, with some held in the alliance by force rather than choice. The blockade of Earth had been straining Coalition resources for 3 years, and several member species were questioning whether the conquest was worth the cost. Admiral Carter received Murphy's report while the battle continued to rage around them. The information suggested that humanity might have allies among their enemies if they could find a way to reach them. But first, Earth's fleet had to survive the continued assault from Coalition loyalists who were still following Supreme Navigator Kethfer's orders. Dr. Amanda Price worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the Defiant to analyze captured alien technology and data. Her team had recovered computer cores from destroyed Coalition ships, and the information they contained painted a disturbing picture of how the Nexus really operated. "Admiral, you need to see this," Price called out over the communication system. "The Coalition technology is not originally theirs. They have been stealing innovations from conquered species for thousands of years." The revelation explained why Coalition technology had remained static for so long. They were parasites who absorbed other civilizations' achievements while preventing further development. The advanced weapons and shields that made them seem invincible were actually the combined innovations of dozens of enslaved species. Meanwhile, Captain Sandra Mills received an encrypted transmission on a frequency that Earth's computers could barely decode. The message was short, but its implications were enormous. A group of colony vessels within the Coalition fleet wanted to defect and join humanity's fight for freedom. The colony were one of the smaller species in the Coalition and had been forced to join the alliance when their homeworld was threatened with destruction. They had secretly admired humanity's refusal to surrender and now saw an opportunity to break free from Nexus control. Mills forwarded the message to Admiral Carter, who faced an impossible decision. He could continue the direct assault against the remaining Coalition forces or try to split their enemies by offering protection to defectors. The choice could determine whether humanity won a battle or started a revolution that would spread across the galaxy. "All human ships, this is Admiral Carter," he announced over the fleet communication system. "We are broadcasting a message to all Coalition vessels. Any crew that wants to break free from Nexus tyranny will receive our protection and alliance." The broadcast went out on all frequencies and included the intelligence data that showed how the Coalition maintained control through fear and oppression. Earth offered something the Nexus never had, which was partnership between equals rather than domination by the strongest. The response was immediate and dramatic. 3 colony cruisers broke formation and moved toward the human fleet while broadcasting their surrender codes. Behind them, 2 Threxan science vessels and a squadron of Korvax fighters followed their lead and abandoned the Coalition formation. Supreme Navigator Kethfer watched his carefully organized fleet disintegrate and felt rage building in his cold, alien mind. The humans had done more than break his blockade. They had destroyed the myth of Coalition invincibility that kept dozens of species in line. If word of this rebellion spread to other systems, the entire Nexus Empire could collapse. All loyal vessels target the defectors, Kethver commanded. They are traitors and must be destroyed as an example to others. The order to fire on their own former allies was too much for many coalition crews. Several more ships refused to follow the command and either fled the battle or joined the growing alliance around Earth's fleet. The rigid command structure that had kept the Nexus together for millennia was cracking under the pressure of humanity's simple offer of freedom. Captain Tony Lewis coordinated the integration of defecting alien ships into Earth's battle formation. The process was chaotic because humans and aliens had never worked together as equals in combat. But the shared desire for freedom created bonds that overcame differences in technology and tactics. The Kelani ships proved especially valuable because their crews understood coalition technology from the inside. Working together, human and Kelani, engineers quickly developed new ways to disrupt enemy shields and weapon systems. The alliance was becoming stronger even as the battle continued around them. Dr. Price established communication protocols with the various alien species and made another startling discovery. Many coalition members had been looking for a way to rebel against Nexus control for generations but had never found the spark to ignite their courage. Humanity's stand against impossible odds had provided that spark. The battle was transforming from a simple military conflict into something much larger. News of the rebellion was already spreading beyond the Sol system as merchant ships and communication relays carried word of humanity's defiance to other star systems. Across the galaxy, oppressed species began to hope that freedom might be possible, but Kethver was not finished yet. The Supreme Navigator gathered his remaining loyal forces for one final desperate attack. If he could not maintain the blockade, he would at least make humanity pay the ultimate price for their rebellion. The Coalition's most powerful ships began moving toward Earth itself with weapons charged and ready to reduce human civilization to radioactive ash. Admiral Carter saw the enemy formation change and realized what was about to happen. The final phase of the battle was beginning and everything humanity had fought for hung in the balance. Supreme Navigator Kethver's remaining loyal forces formed up for their final assault on Earth itself. If the Supreme Navigator could not maintain coalition control through the blockade, he would eliminate humanity as an example to any other species that might consider rebellion. His ships moved into bombardment formation with their planet-killing weapons charging for maximum destruction. Admiral Carter saw the enemy's intention immediately and knew he faced the ultimate test of command. Every choice he made in the next few minutes would determine whether humanity survived or became a cautionary tale whispered among the enslaved species of the galaxy. All ships, defensive formation around Earth, Carter commanded. We do not let a single enemy vessel reach bombardment range. Captain Beth Turner commanded the heavy cruiser UES, vigilant, and positioned her ship directly in the path of the approaching coalition dreadnought that led Kethver's attack formation. Her vessel was outgunned and outnumbered, but Turner had volunteered for the position that would almost certainly mean death for her and her entire crew, the alien dreadnought. Open fire with weapons that could crack planets and Turner's ship absorbed punishment that should have vaporized it instantly. But human engineering had built the Vigilant to take damage and keep fighting long after any reasonable ship would have been destroyed. Turner's crew worked frantically to maintain power to weapons and shields while their ship burned around them. The hull plates glowed red-hot and atmosphere leaked from dozens of breaches, but still they continued firing at the massive enemy vessel that was trying to reach Earth. Captain, we have lost main engines and life support is failing, her first officer reported through the smoke and sparks that filled the bridge. Turner looked at the tactical display and saw more coalition ships moving past her position toward the defenseless planet behind them. Her ship was dying, but she still had one option left that might save her home world. All crew to escape pods, Turner ordered. I am setting the ship to ram the dreadnought. Most of her crew obeyed the order, but several dozen officers and ratings refused to leave their captain behind. Together they guided the crippled Vigilant on a collision course with the alien dreadnought while escape pods scattered into space carrying the survivors. The impact sent both ships spiraling into a death embrace that ended with a fusion explosion visible from Earth's surface. Turner and her volunteers had died, but their sacrifice bought precious time for the rest of humanity's defenders, all across the battle zone. Human ships made similar sacrifices to protect their homeworld. The crews who had families on Earth below them fought with desperate courage that amazed their new alien allies. The Kelani captain who had defected to humanity's cause sent a message to Admiral Carter that would be remembered for generations. "We have fought alongside many species in coalition service," the alien captain transmitted, "but we have never seen warriors who value others' lives above their own. This is why you will win and the Nexus will fall." Dr. Price worked desperately to coordinate the defense with technology that was being pushed far beyond its design limits. The quantum communication system that allowed instant coordination across the fleet was overheating from constant use, but she kept it running through force of will and determination. "Admiral, I am detecting massive energy signatures approaching from outside the system," Price reported. "Multiple fleets are heading toward us at maximum speed." Carter felt his heart skip as he wondered if more coalition reinforcements were arriving to finish what Kethver had started. But the identification signals that came through made him realize that something miraculous was happening. Ships from dozens of different species were converging on Earth's solar system after hearing about humanity's rebellion against the Nexus. The news had spread faster than anyone thought possible and inspired oppressed people throughout the galaxy to take action. The first to arrive were the Zephyrian merchant fleets, who had been secretly moving weapons and supplies to resistance movements for years. Behind them came the warrior clans of the Draconi who had never submitted to coalition rule and had been fighting guerrilla warfare from the outer rim for decades, but the most surprising arrivals were the civilian ships from species that had seemed completely loyal to the Nexus. Doctors and teachers and engineers who had grown tired of serving an empire built on oppression came to offer their skills to humanity's cause. Captain Mary Johnson led a wing of fighters to escort the arriving friendly vessels through the battle zone. Her pilots had been fighting for hours and their ships showed the damage from desperate combat, but they still found the strength to protect their new allies. The arrival of reinforcements changed everything about the battle. Kethver found himself facing not just humanity's small fleet, but a growing alliance of species that represented every corner of the galaxy. His remaining loyal forces were outnumbered for the first time in coalition history. Some of Kethver's ships began to surrender or flee rather than face the combined firepower of the Alliance. The Supreme Navigator himself retreated to his command vessel and prepared for a final stand that he knew he could not win. "This is not over, humans," Kethver transmitted to Admiral Carter. "The Coalition has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, and we will not be destroyed by primitive barbarians who refuse to accept civilization." Carter's response was broadcast to every ship in the system, both friendly and hostile. "We are not trying to destroy the Coalition. We are trying to free it. Every species deserves the right to choose their own path without fear of conquest or slavery." The words carried weight because they were backed by actions. Throughout the battle, humanity had shown mercy to defeated enemies and welcomed defectors as equals rather than conquered subjects. The contrast with coalition brutality was clear to everyone who witnessed it. As the battle reached its climax, more coalition ships switched sides or withdrew from the fight. The blockade that had trapped Earth for 3 years was not just broken but completely shattered. News of the victory was already spreading to every corner of the galaxy where enslaved species began to hope that freedom might finally be possible, but the real test would come in the days and weeks ahead when humanity would have to prove that their victory was not just about winning a battle, but about changing the galaxy forever. 3 months had passed since Earth's fleet broke through the Nexus Blockade, and the solar system had become the most important place in the galaxy. Ships from 47 different species filled the space around Earth as representatives came to join what the news networks were calling the Freedom Alliance. Admiral Jack Carter, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood in the new diplomatic station that had been built in Earth's orbit. Through the observation windows, he could see vessels from across the galaxy docked together in a sight. That would have been impossible before humanity's rebellion against coalition tyranny. The transformation had been faster than anyone expected. Within weeks of the battle, entire star systems had declared independence from Nexus control. The rigid empire that had dominated the galaxy for millennia was crumbling as species after species chose freedom over forced submission. Dr. Amanda Price led the joint research projects that were combining the best innovations from dozens of different civilizations. Human creativity merged with alien knowledge to advance science at a rate that amazed everyone involved. Technologies that would have taken centuries to develop were being perfected in months. Through cooperative effort, the laboratory facilities orbiting Earth buzzed with activity as researchers from different worlds worked side by side on projects that would benefit everyone. The old coalition system of hoarding knowledge to maintain power had been replaced by open sharing that accelerated progress for all Alliance members. Captain Mary Johnson commanded the first joint exploration mission beyond the former coalition borders. Her crew included humans, Kelani, Threxan, and members of 6 other species working together as equals. They had discovered star systems that had been isolated for centuries and were eager to join the growing alliance. The exploration ships brought back reports of civilizations that had hidden from the coalition for generations. These isolated worlds possessed unique technologies and cultural perspectives that enriched the alliance even further. Each new member species added their own strengths to the growing confederation, but the changes went beyond technology and exploration. The human approach to diplomacy was revolutionizing galactic politics. Instead of the rigid hierarchy that the coalition had enforced, Earth offered genuine partnership between equal participants. President William Hayes addressed representatives from across the galaxy in a ceremony that was broadcast to billions of beings throughout known space. His words carried the message that had inspired the rebellion and continued to attract new members to the alliance. "We did not fight the coalition to replace one empire with another," Hayes declared. "We fought so that every intelligent species could choose their own destiny without fear of conquest or domination." The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Free trade had replaced the coalition monopoly system that had strangled commerce for centuries. Earth's colonies, no longer blockaded, became thriving centers where goods and ideas flowed freely between worlds. Mars had transformed from a struggling outpost into a major hub for interstellar commerce. The mineral wealth of the asteroid belt was being developed through joint ventures between human and alien corporations that shared profits equitably rather than exploiting weaker partners. Europa's research stations worked with Threxan scientists to unlock the secrets of their ice-covered oceans, while Titan's colonies hosted Korvax engineers who were improving fusion technology for the benefit of all alliance members. The cultural exchange was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the transformation. Human art and music spread to alien worlds while Earth welcomed teachers and philosophers from civilizations that had developed completely different approaches to understanding the universe. Children on Earth played with young beings from other worlds in parks and schools that had been redesigned to accommodate different physiologies. The sight of human and alien youngsters learning together represented hope for a future where diversity was celebrated rather than feared, but not everyone welcomed the changes. Supreme Navigator Kethver had escaped with a core of loyal coalition forces and established hidden bases in the Outer Rim. From there, he conducted guerrilla warfare against Alliance shipping and settlements. Some human leaders wanted to hunt down the remnants and destroy them completely. Admiral Carter argued for a different approach that reflected the principles humanity had fought to establish. "If we become the same kind of brutal conquerors the coalition was, we will have won the battle but lost everything we fought for," Carter told the Alliance Council. "We must prove that our way is better by showing mercy even to our enemies." The policy of offering amnesty to coalition forces who surrendered had already convinced thousands of alien military personnel to switch sides. Even some of Kethvar's most loyal officers were beginning to question whether continued warfare served any purpose. Captain Tony Lewis led joint patrols that protected Alliance shipping from Coalition raiders. His mixed crews of humans and former Coalition species worked together with an efficiency that surprised everyone. Trust built through shared danger had created bonds stronger than old prejudices, but the greatest victory was not military or economic but psychological. The galaxy had seen that freedom was possible and that cooperation could accomplish more than domination. The myth of inevitable empire had been shattered by a species that refused to accept that might made right. Dr. Price often worked late into the night in her laboratory and sometimes paused to look out at the stars that no longer seemed distant and hostile. Humanity had reached for those stars and found not conquest but friendship with beings they had never imagined could exist. The final scene of this chapter in galactic history took place in the orbital station's main conference hall. Representatives